now 21. And when her mother originally came to see us, she was 31 years old, newly married, wanted to have a family. And her doctors were laughing at her and said, how is that possible? You need to get donor eggs. Because at the age of 18, she had complete removal of both her ovaries from serious ovarian cyst. So at the tender age of 31, want to have a baby, get a donor egg. But she really wanted to have a baby. That was her own. And so she came to us. And how do you tell somebody that you don't have ovaries and therefore your capacities for producing eggs is pretty much zero, barring a miracle? Okay? Barring a miracle. However, she was so insistent that we said, okay, why don't we work with you for a few months? And what we're going to do is, just by chance, your doctor missed a piece of tissue, left a piece of tissue behind, just by chance. So a few months later, in an ultrasound, we saw an egg in her abdomen. We weren't really sure exactly what it was. And she underwent retrieval and retrieved one egg. And that one egg, fertilized with her husband's sperm, produced the child that I was seeing 21 years later. So, do miracles happen? Yes, miracles do happen. But there are obstacles that we have to be aware of on the road and path to our dreams. So I'm going to talk about the 5 collaborators. What are the 5 collaborators? These are going to either be collaborating in the process of family making, or there are going to be obstacles to your family making. So let's examine each of these. And so we look up into the sky and we saw the heaven. The heaven, according to ancient masters who gave us the wisdom of Chinese medicine, said, okay, the heaven is the creative, the paternal source. And we look around and we look at the earth, and as the ancient masters said, well, the earth is the receptive. So these are represented by these lines, right? So you can see this is the trigram. Before the event of language, there was symbols. And these symbols were the ancient masters' attempt to explain the phenomenons of the universe and the laws of the universe. And did a pretty good job, considering that we think that we're the advanced civilization and that 10,000 years ago, our human ancestors didn't know a whole lot about what we know today. Sure, we've got very sophisticated instruments today. We can see the most minutest details of life. But the ancient masters had already known that in the universe, there was a polarity of energy, the yin and yang. And this energy fused together. It was the intercourse of this energy in which produced the universe and all life forms. And now we have to then look to the intermediary, which of course is our ancestors. The interesting part of America is this. So it's very rare for people to trace their ancestry back beyond 3 or 4 or 5 generations. Because everybody in America, most people came from elsewhere, except for the American Indian. The native Indians have been here for a long time. But they too migrated from Central Asia. And there's a Chinese proverb says, to forget one's ancestors is to be a brook without a source, a tree without a root. It's inherent within the Chinese thinking that we wouldn't be here with our ancestors. And yet, the American pop culture doesn't really celebrate ancestors because we're the land of the individual. It's our lives that matter. It's not the lives of our ancestors. They really don't have impact on us and our lives today. But think again. They have everything to do with why we are here today. Just like Dr. Turek said about the giraffe. The giraffe owes its long neck today to its ancestors, however many thousands of years ago, through their efforts to try to get the upper branches on the high part of a tree. So ancestors is our more immediate source, right? So first there was the heaven, our paternal source, earth, the receptive, our maternal source. The union of the two produced the universe and the life form. And from there, we now evolve into our partner. Our partner is a co-producer. It is with a partner, and whether this partner is in living flesh form, or whether this partner is in the form of a sperm from a sperm bank, or an egg from a donor, but that is still your partner. It's a co-producer. And then there's you, the vessel. We are merely vessels for the lives that are going to come through us into this world. And the vision of bringing those lives to this world may be the genesis and the beginning of this new life form, but we have to engage the collaborators. So as the Yale Emperor's Classic pointed out, that this is a teamwork. This is not just you going out there and making a new life on your own, but rather there are so many other factors that make it happen. So this weekend you learn about how to solve, maybe challenges with PCOS or hormonal imbalance, or the terrain of the uterus may be an issue, or smoking pot may actually diminish your sperm, motility in specific. And so all of that are very valid, and you need to counsel your patients. But we have to sort of step back and look at the bigger picture. That actually life, the making and the creation of life is still a miracle in itself. And let's not forget that it's not a right, but a privilege and an honor. And it comes with huge amount of responsibilities. And how much do we actually get to talk to our patients about this? And this is the kind of the missing link here. So let's go back and examine each of these collaborators and how they can be supportive or detractive. There's the heavenly will when we talk about the heavenly creative. So, what's the heavenly will? According to the Yale Emperor's Classic, it's a heavenly mandate, and that mandate is actually that we do get to pass on our genetic material from a biological standpoint, but also our wisdom, our experience, how to avoid the pitfalls in life and so forth. So as far as what heaven wants all of us to be reproductive and to do it in a way that will create a strong family, a strong community, and a strong humanity. Now we look at the law of polarity, the yin and yang. If the yin and yang are imbalanced, then we have a disharmony. So we must bring that together in a very harmonious fashion. All right? And this translates into so many areas. So when I sit down to talk to my patients, this is a coaching session, which is really what's become forgotten in modern day Western medicine. Today it's technology driven. It's 5 minutes in and out. There's no time to sit down and really talk about what are your concerns? What are your obstacles? What are some of the things, the worries that keeps you up at night? You know, what about the family? I know you want to have a baby and you want to have a family, but are you ready for it? What resources do you need? What support do you need? Your families are all away from this city. So what kind of support system do you have? You have to remember, it's really about putting all the conditions as in a right form, in the right timing and the right everything. So the interactive of yin and yang is really important in one's life. The sooner you educate them about this understanding of yin and yang in their lives, they'll realize that it's really one of the most valuable things that they can take away. For example, Dr. Turek mentioned a little bit about overexercise, right? Overexercise. Overexercise in our exercise, fitness, youth-obsessed culture. I have patients who go spinning twice a day. Twice a day, not once, but twice a day, an hour and a half each time. Okay? So, why? Because she is really concerned about putting on weight. That's her motivation. She needs to do 3 hours of exercise a day, right? And she's running around, moving all the time and so forth, and sleeping 5 hours a night. What do we say about balance of yin and yang? Yin is sleep and rest and nourishment. Yang is activity and fitness and exercise. So when you have too much yang and not enough yin, the net result is no baby, no pregnancy. Your period starts to get affected. It becomes dysregulated. It's your lifestyle. You're not having a balance. And this is very important. Because we all see these high-driven executive types who basically have to meet their husbands somewhere other than their home city because they're both traveling all the time in order to copulate, to get pregnant. What sort of baby and the family life are they bringing into this world? Think about that. And then there is the time that we're talking about. So the heaven really governs this timing. So we're familiar with this cycle, right? The cycle of fertility. There's the 7-year cycle in women, 8-year cycle in men. And right about 35 is the zenith and the peak, as outlined in the Yale Emperor's Classic. And 35 onward, the next 7 years, is a decline. And not surprisingly, 35 to 42 is really the time of declining fertility. And then 42 onward, you're drying up. Literally, the words were used, the tone channel is drying up. And what's happening? So, of course, we encourage fertility or the act of family making earlier on in one's life. Because prior to 35, it's much easier. And modern science has corroborated that. This ancient wisdom, how did they figure out this 7-year cycle in a woman's reproductive life? So, however, today with what we can do and technology like IVF, we can extend a woman's reproductive life. And we can go into the 40s and still be very successful. And I specialize because of my background in longevity and anti-aging. I see most of my patients are above age 42, and many of them are 45, 46. But I do tell them, look, this is part of this heavenly will, if you will, that heaven wants you to have a baby or babies, but that your timing is a little off, right? So we're going to do what we can to help to engineer a better environment so that we can help you achieve your dream. And then we look at cycles. Cycles of the seasons, cycles of the 5 elements and everything. The cycle is just as important. And so, interestingly, right, that we think spring, right, is a fertility. It's like, it seems like nature is endowed with fertility. But Dr. Terry pointed out that actually statistically, right, that it's actually the fall in which, you know, the sperm is the most active or strongest and so forth. But guess what? The births, most of births still happen in spring. Spring. That's when the babies are born, right? Spring and summer, babies are born. So what does it say? It says that in Chinese medicine, we understand the yin. You have to have that yin period, fall and winter, in order to ensure a really good spring and summer, right? So you got to cultivate your Jing. You got to cultivate. You got to slow down. You got to nest. You got to really get into that process. So this is a very, I would say, common sense, but not really. Not in our culture, not in the Western culture today. So it's important that you understand that there is a season for everything. And that if you understand that and you capitalize on that wisdom, then you won't be flailing in your efforts. So many people put so much time, energy, money into try to work on their fertility. And a lot of it is not effective. So in fact, in my patients, and this is also another thing, right? Very hard to counsel patients. And I tell them, they come in any time of year, I say, listen, we're going to really work on this, and it will take time, but it's very critical that during the yin period of your year, which is your fall and winter, that those are the most important time for you to cultivate your fertility, your Jing, right? All right, so look at the cosmos. There are billions of galaxies just like ours out there. We are just a speck in this universe. So on some level, I look up in the sky and I think we are so insignificant. On the other hand, we are all offspring of this great universe, this creative universe. We're here, and we're here and now. And that the universe will perpetuate beyond our physical lives. And the day and night, we must also respect the rhythms of the heavens. You know, people who don't sleep at night and sleep during the day, there are studies that show night shift workers have vastly lower fertility rates. So, in other words, you're flipped around. You're upside down. You're not following the rhythms of the universe. And so through the seasons, we must also respect that. Let's talk about the earth. Now we talk about space. So first we talk about time. Then we talk about space. And everything, like I said, could be either your friend or your foe in the pursuit of family. The space we talk about specifically the environment. In the old days, we talk about nutrition, right? If you happen to be in a hunter-gathering society, and one year, for whatever reason, there just wasn't much to eat, your body goes into survival mode, and it basically stores whatever you can eat and gather for survival, not for reproduction. So that year, or that season, your body's going to shut down. Your period will probably stop or dry out and just kind of wait until we can get more nutrients, the fats and the carbohydrates again. And so nutrition plays a big role. And this is why we know today that it's so critical for women to make sure that they don't have high blood sugar, that make sure they don't have insulin resistance, that they don't have these issues, metabolic issues, thyroid issues, and so forth. Much of it is affected by the diet, right? The environment also, we're talking about toxins in the environment. Toxins causes DNA fragmentation to both the male and the female, the eggs and the sperm. So there's studies that show men who actually takes a credit card receipts and puts in their pocket have lower sperm count, lower sperm motility. Why? Because all these credit card receipts are coated with BPA, plastic. And it's xenoestrogen. And it's basically because they're sweating, it leaches into their testicles and some of it's absorbed under the skin. Something as simple as that, right? What is that? That is a man-made problem. We are eating plastics left and right. Not that literally we're eating, but because they're